Yes, everybody, welcome back. My name is Stephen Howson, and this is 5 things that we learned watching Manchester United beat West Ham yesterday. We've had a pretty rough go of it at home at the moment. And I thought yesterday's performance, some people called it boring. Sometimes you've got to take boring. Joe, when it wasn't boring, David Moyes. It wasn't boring when we had David Moyes in charge of us. It was anything but boring. At times I'd cry for boring under David Moyes. It hasn't been boring under Ollie for the most part, neither. But I thought yesterday was a solid performance. Moyes' West Ham have sort of got into this kind of rhythm of really disrupting what the opposition are able to do. They're going and putting in decent results. And when you look at United's home form this season, actually 3 points and a clean sheet from a team that's lethal from set pieces is a very, very good result. All but secured second place now, which leads us to our first one. Number 1, United finally capitalise. In recent times, we've been gifted a lot of opportunities to try and make a real claim for that second place in the league, and we've slipped it up. Back-to-back wins against City and West Ham, which if you'd have rolled it back a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at them fixtures and going, oof, that could be tricky, that could be tasty, that might be a bit rougher. But the fact that Spurs, Chelsea and Everton all dropped points this weekend definitely made it even sweeter that we managed to pick it up. United are 6 points clear of 4th, 9 points safe inside the top 4 with West Ham sitting 9 points behind us. We've got 9 games left to go. You're looking at a pretty hefty collapse from United for that. Now, one team could do it. One team could do it, but when you're asking 3 or 4 teams to do it, to be able to kick us out of the top 4, it starts to look increasingly unlikely. That's not to say that second is secure by any means, but I do think that United are now starting to really get a bit of a grip on that Champions League qualification. And yeah, I agree. I think Solskjaer needs to win a trophy, but you can't just have your cake and eat it. You can't just have everything that you want. At times, you have to accept that there's been progress in what has been an absolutely crazy 12-month, not just of football, but for all of our entire lives. Number 2, Fernandes was creative. Fernandes has come under a lot of stick of late, and I don't know if it's just become fashionable. I don't know what it is. People are just deciding that they have to pick holes in games when people are having good games or when they're having very productive games. Bruno Fernandes is a player that loses the ball a lot. This only becomes an issue when he plays for United. I see people talking about how our strikers are wasteful if they don't score after 3 chances. Well, supposedly the best striker in England with Harry Kane had 3 chances yesterday, didn't score. The double standards applied to United players versus players of other clubs is wild. Bruno created 5 chances, which means across both league games, he's now created 13 chances against West Ham this season, which is the most any player has created against a specific opponent this season so far. He's now created 82 chances in the Premier League this season, which is more than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So, yes, Bruno Fernandes loses the ball, but he tries things. And this is converse to the people going on about Martial's 95% pass completion. It's irrelevant. I'm not looking at a centre forward for his pass completion. You have to look at what a specific position does, what a specific position is required to do. Like, your goalkeeper's usually probably the guy with the worst pass completion. You're not expecting your goalkeeper to be involved in your build-up play and have a 90% pass completion rate. They're dealing with a lot of low percentage longer balls. You want them to be 100% when they're playing out to people 10 yards of them. But the overall thing gets impacted by the other sort of things that they're doing. Bruno Fernandes, when he's trying to put balls through a pinhole into the box, he's going to lose the ball a lot. I don't understand the obsession people have with, I think it's just misrepresenting what stats are. Stats are incredibly useful, but you have to understand what those stats are for. It's like the expected goals thing. The expected goals is a great measure of the expected or the probability of you scoring a goal from a certain area. Does it take into account who's scoring it? No. Does it matter if it's Lindelof or Ruud van Nistelrooy that goes through? No. It's the probability of tens of thousands of goals being scored from certain areas. And it's pretty watertight. Now, yeah, you'll see people that have under and outperformed and overperformed their XG. It's just used as a bit of a benchmark. Because sometimes you go, oh, he's got to score that. And you might be right. And it might appear as a big chance. But the got to score that are probably the ones that are 50% or more. chance of scoring. You seen, I think the Rabona that we saw yesterday from Lamela was like a 1% chance, something like that. That's what makes the spectacular goals, is that they are low percentage chance. And that's what is amazing about them. When we remember football for those moments, it's just a measurement and it's a guide. It's not meant to be. I don't really like the expected points because that's going off what the expected goals was in every single given game. It doesn't work like that, does it? But I like it on an individual game-by-game basis. But, pass completion can be largely irrelevant. What are you doing with those passes? Are you looking to move the ball forward? Now, I think Fred's probably got quite a high pass completion. I don't think he's a great footballer with the ball at his feet. I think there's lots that we're not unlocking by having Fred in the mixer. And I think the day that McTominay and Fred become squad players, because United have upgraded them and upgraded to real footballing players in those positions, I think we'll be in a good place. But at the moment, and I don't think this is, and going back to calling the game boring, I thought United did what they had to do, and I thought it was a pretty professional performance. But there's levels to this that show how far we are away from Manchester City and Europe's best. We're not going to win the league, and we're not going to compete for the Champions League with Fred and McTominay as a midfield. You have to be able to upgrade those players. And same with Dan James, you have to be able to upgrade those players. We've got lots of squad players in the team, but we haven't got your world-class match winners littered throughout the side. And part of what was going on about the Glazers on Saturday was I just don't see how United get them. I don't think that United's board has got the real desire for us to have those players. So you're going to struggle. Anyway, Fernandes was sick, in terms of chance creation at least. Number 3, it was another clean sheet. I think it was Sir Alex Ferguson that once said that he'd rather win games 1-0 than 5-0. 1-0 was, you would know you'd had a hard job, you've been in a tight contest and you've been resolute. 5-0, well, why didn't you score 7? You're obviously significantly better than them. United are also prone to conceding preventable goals here and there, but in general, we weathered the storm that we saw from West Ham. It's that 4th consecutive clean sheet in the Premier League. There's no club on a better run of form in the competition than Manchester United at the moment. It was a relatively quiet night for Dean Henderson, didn't have a lot of saves to make, but he was coming out and claiming balls. And that's what you want to see from your goalkeeper. He's conceded just 3 goals and kept 4 clean sheets in 6 Premier League games this season. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. So you've got to build on those clean sheets. There's positives, and when people talk about the progress, these are the positives that you've got to take. We're starting to now not concede. We're also the team that scored the most goals in the league. If we can make it that we're very hard to score against and we score lots of goals, you're going to win more football games than you lose. It's as simple as that. The progress is there for us to see. Number 4, Mason Greenwood. Mason was good last night. He was probably unlucky not to bag a goal. Had quite a few shots. It was a pretty lively performance from him playing as a number 9. I thought it was really interesting. Diop had decided that he was going to man mark him. And this is where I think that United lack a leader in midfield. We've got good players, but we don't have a leader. We don't have, and even like a Michael Carrick kind of player. I think Paul Scholes would have loved what he was seeing last night when he was playing. But Diop was being dragged around. He was doing a literal man-to-man marking job on Mason Greenwood. Now, either Greenwood didn't have the tactical maturity to recognise what was happening, or Manchester United as a whole didn't have the tactical intelligence to recognise what was happening. Diop was following Greenwood out of position. Greenwood was dragging him over to the right-hand side. He was dragging him deeper out of the line, and Diop was staying right on him. Now, for me, that's where either Marcus, Bruno especially, because he's basically a false 9, need to spin into that hole, go 1v1 against Dawson. That's what United needed to do. There was a gap that was opening up. Defending football is all about distances and gaps, right? And space. And United were creating, and I think it was by accident, just for the fact that Diop was following Greenwood around like a sheep. Just for that fact, no one recognised, hang on, every time Mason moves, he's behind him. Right, Mason, what I want you to do, spin off, get involved with a little bit of link-up play. We're going to put a ball down the centre, and we're going to create a gap down the middle. That's what I'd like to have seen United doing. But that wasn't what United did. Outside of that, though, he did all right. He had 5 shots, 4 inside the area. He hit the woodwork twice. He created 2 chances for other people, one of them being a big chance. He looked like he was going to put United ahead in the first half, denied by an excellent Fabianski save. But even with no goal contributions, it was a real promising showing from him. I just hope that someone sat him down today, watched the tape with him and gone, have you seen this? You need to recognise when this is. Open your mouth and let's see if we can create things on the back of you being a decoy runner or dragging someone out of play. Because that's, when they talk about intelligence and experience, that's the sort of game where he could have really used the opportunity to learn from that. Returnees are inbound. So one of the biggest boosts for United, I thought, yesterday was, it didn't come in the game. It was in the press conference that Solskjaer had after the match. Following full time, he said that Cavani, Marshall, Pogba, Van der Beek and De Gea could all return against Milan on Thursday. I'd be very surprised to see 5 returnees from injury and quarantine all in one game. And De Gea going straight back in goal on a Thursday night makes me wonder if actually the number one, at least in Solskjaer's eyes, has been switched. But it does come at a perfect time for United, who, if we beat Milan this week, we've got loads of momentum going into the final stanza of the season. And with the league games coming up before, and matches that we've got coming up before the international break, United can come in and say, well, we've had a pretty good time of it of late. International break poses its own sort of question marks as well, because for me, the fact that there's quarantine on the back end of international breaks is absolutely ridiculous in terms of us allowing any of our players to go, and I mean any of our players to go and play for their international teams in the middle of a pandemic. Now, if they was allowed to go in their bubbles, which for me makes no sense that you're out in this bubble, now you can go in this bubble, which is shared with all these other bubbles, it just makes a mockery of the whole quarantine and safety measures that have been put in place around the Premier League. I don't understand it in the slightest. And for me, UEFA, FIFA, the Premier League, in not taking a stand against this, are doing football a disservice. There really does need to be some ownership from some of the governing bodies here to take a stand and say international football at this time is a fucking joke. It cannot be played. It should not be played. The impact on everything else is too great. If you want to go and do some international stuff ahead of tournaments in the summer, I understand that. But let's finish our domestic season and let's let everybody go and then stay in those bubbles. Entering and re-entering and coming back and coming out and mixing with all the different ones at the same time is literally the worst possible idea when there's a global pandemic with a really contagious virus. It's ridiculous. So I hope that United go, none of our players are going on a national break, and we use that time to catch up on some much needed rest, some much needed sleep and some much needed rehab for the players that are returning from injury. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know what's your thoughts on international break. Do we need to just absolutely chin it off? Get your comments in below. Make sure to check out the Patreon group as well. Come and support the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.